this video, we're going to take you through a step-by-step blueprint to building your first business and scaling it to $1 million in revenue. It's a framework that I learned from one of my most important business mentors, Daniel Priestley, who built his first multi-million-dollar business at the age of 21, and since then has scaled multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses from absolutely nothing.
There's a process for doing this. Process number one is the apprenticeship. I'm going to do something that starts and finishes in 90 days.
Why 90 days? Why is that important?
Because you need to do a value creation cycle. It starts with founder opportunity fit. So that is you finding an opportunity that's good for you.
How do we come up with an idea? Like, what's the process?
The process is to come up with 10 ideas.
What happens next?
We're going to go out and we're going to try and find a collaborator.
How important is that in your experience?
It's everything.
Oh man, nice. What would you say is a realistic timeline?
I genuinely believe you can do this really a lot faster than people think.
And so hopefully what this video will show you is that starting a business and even scaling it to something like $1 million in revenue is really just a step-by-step process that anyone can follow. And when I say anyone, I really do mean literally anyone. No matter what your external circumstances, no matter what else is going on in your life, you actually could choose to follow this step-by-step process. If, for example, you have a job and a family and not that much spare time, maybe it'll take you longer than someone else who's like a 21-year-old student who's able to grind for 80 hours a week. But it's really still the same step-by-step process that gets you to the same destination, as long as we're a little bit agnostic about how much time it's actually going to take us to get there. And so with that said, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Freedom Fridays, the ongoing series on the channel where we explore how to actually physically work towards financial freedom so that you can live life on your own terms. Step 1, the 766 apprenticeship. All right, so this is Dan's framework. So basically anything below the line is the stuff that you are doing to prepare to start your business. And then anything above the line is the stuff you're doing to actually build your business. And everything starts with what Dan calls the 766 apprenticeship, where you basically go and work for a profitable small business.
Right, so a 766 apprenticeship is where you find a business that already does 7 figures of revenue, right? So US dollar revenue, and 6 figures of profit. So it's a profitable small business. And you go and do 6 months as a direct report to the entrepreneur. That's your first mission. Your first mission is to do a 766 apprenticeship. 3 things that you're trying to get: commercial awareness, self-awareness, and access to resources. So commercial awareness is you understand how businesses work. Self-awareness, you understand your own strengths and weaknesses and who you need to have around you. And resources, you know how to get the things that you need to start the business. Yeah. So that's what you're trying to get from an apprenticeship.
How necessary is the apprenticeship?
Well, it was massively valuable for me. I have seen so many people who have worked. Look, I had a mentor. I did 2 years working for a mentor, and then I went off and started a business that did 7 figures in its first year and 8 figures in the third year. So like I wouldn't have done that at 22, 23 years old had I not had a mentor. I've seen many of my young employees go off and start 7-figure businesses before the age of 30 because they worked for me. So I just know that there's something magical that's happening in that mentorship.
I think this is a very underrated aspect of entrepreneurship, because if you are currently feeling imposter syndrome about, oh my God, I don't know how to start a business, you probably have never really worked within a small business. I have so many people who are in my team right now and who've been in my team in the past who this is their first time working for a small business. And then immediately they get this like massive firmware update in their own mind. Because maybe they were previously working as a cog in a massive corporation where you really don't get a feel for how the business is run. But if you join a team that has 4 people, 5 people, 10 people, 12 people, you literally understand like, oh, this is how the money is made. This is how the products are made. This is how sales are done. This is how content is done. Oh, okay. This isn't too hard. I could probably kind of do this myself further down the line. So I think there is enormous value in doing the apprenticeship. But anyway, whether you do or don't do the apprenticeship, let's now move on to step number 2, which is the 90-day side hustle.
Then there's the side hustle. Now the side hustle is the entrepreneurial test where you're just testing, can I do this? And the key with the side hustle is open and shut in 90 days. So you might say, I'm going to put on a workshop and I'm going to get 30 people to pay $100 a head. And I'm just going to do like from starting out to finishing the workshop, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to make a few $1,000s and I'm just going to see if I can do it. And it's all going to be open and shut in 90 days. I'm not describing this as a business. I'm not telling people this is an ongoing thing. I'm going to do something that starts and finishes in 90 days.
Why 90 days? Why is that important?
Because you need to do a value creation cycle, a value creation loop, and then to be able to stop and evaluate whether you like it or not.
What's a value creation loop?
So a value creation loop is going from an idea to completion where you've exited the business or finished up, and then you can pause and reflect. And what you want to do is also take the pressure off that this has to be some perfect business idea. So for example, in my side hustle days, I bought 100 roses and I dressed up as in a tuxedo and I went door to door and I sold my 100 roses. Now, I bought the roses from a wholesaler for 40 cents each and I sold them door to door $4 each. So I, made some money. Now, that was great money at the time. I was a teenager, but it was about having an idea, finding a supplier, going out, taking a small risk. I think it might have cost me $40 to buy the wholesale roses and sell them for $400. So pretty cool, right? I also ran some nightclub parties. So I found a venue that was willing to host a nightclub party. I promoted it. I filled the room. We ran the party. I made the money, and then that was it. It was done. So I ran my nightclub parties.
Okay. Objection, Your Honor. I've got a job and my job pays $100,000 a year and I don't want to screw around trying to sell roses on the side. Like, that's just, that would be such a waste of time.
That would be a waste of time.
I want to have the right idea.
Yeah. But you might say, I'm going to take on 2 consulting clients and I'm just going to do a 90-day consultation where during that 90 days, I'm going to get paid $15,000 to deliver a piece of work. I'm going to create a report. I'm going to do something, I might create a set of videos for them, right? But it's going to be open and shut in 90 days. I was a teenager when I was doing side hustles. So, it's not like I could have done a consulting project or something like that. But so for me, my side hustles, selling roses, running nightclub parties, those were appropriate. When I was slightly older, 21, 22, I did a tiny little side hustle where I did some sales training. So I actually found some companies that, because I'd been doing appointment setting and sales, I found a few little companies that wanted to learn what I knew, and I was a few steps ahead. And I actually did some sales training days. And I was like 21 years old with a little group of people around a table, and I was teaching them some of my sales skills, and I was making actual calls in front of them and showing them how I would make a sale. And we were just going through it, and I got a few people to pay me to do that open and shut side hustle. So it can be scrappy, or it could be consultative, or it could be So it's project based. It's essentially a valuable project.
And would you start with if you were to have a new business idea, or if someone were to have a new business idea, is it worth doing the side hustle experiment for 90 days? Just to see what happens as like a validation process?
That's it. Validation is such an important word in entrepreneurship. We want fast, cheap experiments because when you make an idea for a business, it is in the absence of customer involvement. And when customers get involved, you discover things that you had no idea they wanted or that they objected to or any of that sort of stuff. I would say the best business idea is probably 40%. You probably get to 40% of your awareness of what a customer actually wants. Like if you were to be the most unbelievably planned out person who really intimately knew the market, you probably know about 40% of the things that you need to know. Yep. And only through interacting with customers do you get the other 60%. So you have to do fast, cheap experiments. You also have to detach your ego from those experiments. Let's imagine you are actually a scientist and someone paid you as a scientist to conduct an experiment. Do people want spicy toothpaste? Like a lot of people like mint and they like sweet, but we've never experimented with savory flavors of toothpaste. So let's say Tabasco flavor toothpaste or chicken stock flavor toothpaste, right? So you laugh, but maybe there's this entire garlic and rosemary cheese and onion crisp flavored toothpaste, right? You might say there's there might be a group of people who love Tabasco sauce and they want Tabasco flavored toothpaste. So the thing is that we want to say, okay, we're going to go and so like if I threw that at you and said your job is to figure that out. Now you've got a scientific background. You would probably say, well, I better go with some fast, cheap experiments. So out of curiosity, what would be a couple of fast, cheap experiments that you would go with for chili flavored toothpaste?
Okay, nice. So firstly, I would probably just get some toothpaste and just add Tabasco to it. And now I've manufactured my own sort of Tabasco flavored toothpaste.
Yeah.
And then I would go out somewhere where there's a lot of foot traffic and I just offer free samples to be like, try out our Tabasco flavored toothpaste, completely free sample with like some tiny ass like disposable toothbrush that you can buy for like 5 cents or whatever. I just get 100 of those. People grab a toothbrush, grab the toothpaste, and I have someone there recording their reactions if they're open to it.
Yep.
And we see what happens. And we do that in like a day.
Amazing. So like you don't need a manufacturer. You wouldn't need to talk to any like major expense. You just buy the most bland flavored toothpaste you can, add Tabasco to it. It's what's called directionally correct, right? So it's not the finished product, but it's a directionally correct product. So you essentially go out on the street. Now, here's a question I've got for you. How many people would you have to survey for you to intuitively think you had some sort of statistical significance? Like, for example, if you surveyed 5 and 5 people said, I don't like it, would you immediately rule out after 5?
No, I think 30 to 50 would be my rough.
Yeah. So the truth, the numbers, the two numbers that work is 30 and 150.
Okay, nice.
So when dealing with population sizes, we can get our first sigma at about 30 samples, and then we can get our second sigma at 150 samples. And what we're talking about here is we can infer something from 30 samples, and we can infer a lot more from 150 samples, right? So for example, we might see if we got 30 people to brush their teeth with chili flavor and 3 people liked it and said they'd be open to it, we say, oh, about 10% of people are interested in this, right? If we did 150 and we got 20 out of 150, we go, oh, it's higher than 10%, right? So initially it was 10%, but now we go, oh, it's actually as much as 12, 15%. So we can actually start to fine tune from 150. So for entrepreneurs, we need to know that when we conduct tests, fast, cheap experiments, 30 people is the minimum for telling us anything at all, and 150 is for fine tuning as well.
This reminds me of when my first vaguely successful business was when I was 18, and I had the idea that I would teach courses to help people ace the BMAT entrance exam for medical school. And I was like, I'd been sort of dabbling with business ideas for like a few years at that point, so I was sort of well versed in the thing around fast, cheap experiments, around like, okay, let's just do this. So like the following weekend, I got some of my brother's friends to come over to my house. And I prepared like a PowerPoint and projected it onto our living room TV, and offered them a 1-day course in the BMAT for like £50 or something. And I had like 6 people in the room, and I enjoyed it and they enjoyed it. And so I was like, okay, 6 is not amazing, but like this was a good like proof of concept that this is a thing that I actually could charge people for.
Yeah, and especially look, if you do get a result from 6, but here's what I'm trying to avoid. I speak to so many people that go, oh, I spoke to 6 people and nobody went ahead, so therefore it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And you probably got lucky with your first 6. But I really tell people, you don't know anything until you've spoken to 30. Like 30 sales meetings is my minimum. Yeah. Now, I actually know a billionaire. You met him, actually. You went to his house with me.
Oh, yeah.
So I know a billionaire who came up with an idea for a new piece of software. And his first thing that he did, his time is incredibly valuable. The first thing he did was 30 one-to-one sales meetings where he personally did 30 one-on-one sales meetings to see how customers would react. Most people who were doing a sales meeting with had no idea they were talking to a billionaire. And he was just talking to them as a software salesperson, and he was just seeing if he could sell this software. And he was just finding out what customers thought. So even a billionaire knows 30 sales meetings, one-to-one, face-to-face is kind of where it's at.
Now, if you're thinking of building a business, then one of the most interesting business models is software. And this is something that me and my team have been getting into for the last 12 months or so. So far, we've launched 2 apps. One of them, VoicePal, we launched about 12 months ago, and that's already at $70,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And we've also just launched Momentum, which is a habit tracker with accountability built in to help you stay way more consistent with your habits. And there is one tool that we have been using throughout the entire development process, and that is Lovable, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. Now, what Lovable does is that it massively lowers all of the barriers that are involved with creating software. Essentially, even if you don't know how to code, you just describe what you want to build, and then Lovable's AI will help you create actual working applications. So whether you just want to whip up a tool for your business, or if you want to build some kind of app for a problem that you've noticed, or even just as something fun to experiment with. And the way that my team and I use Lovable is that it's an intrinsic part of our prototyping process. So essentially, we'll come up with an idea for an app like VoicePal or Momentum, and then back in the day, if you wanted to make a prototype, you would have had to draw boxes on a page in like Photoshop or Figma or something. Whereas now what we can do is basically just like have a conversation with Lovable, and then within seconds it gives you a clickable prototype of the thing that you've described. Now this is incredibly helpful because now what used to take hours to try and visualize like a particular screen or whatever now is literally done within seconds, and it massively speeds up our iteration process when we are prototyping and developing. If you already know how to code, then Lovable gives you absolute superpowers, and if you don't yet know how to code, then Lovable is a great way to get started with being able to create stuff without actually needing to know the ins and outs of coding. So if you would like to give Lovable a try, you can start completely for free with 5 credits a day, so there's literally zero risk in playing around. And if you do want to upgrade, you can head over to lovable.dev, and if you use the code ALIYT, like Ali YouTube, ALIYT, then that will give you 20% off the Pro plan. So thank you Lovable for sponsoring this video and for helping us out in our own development process for our apps, and let's get back to the video. Step 3, idea generation. Okay, so step 3 is sort of at this inflection point in our graph, because here we are going to talk about idea generation. How do we come up with an idea? Like, what's the process?
So the process is to come up with 10 ideas and then to rank those ideas by, does this solve a problem that people experience? Does this deliver a remarkable outcome that people really, really want? And would people be willing to, the people that I'm selling to, do they have a high disposable income? Are they willing to pay for this? Can they justify a high return on investment?
So in that sense, our toothpaste idea would score low on all of these fronts.
Score low on all of these.
Because toothpaste is price anchored. Even a billionaire wouldn't pay like
Yep.
more than about £5 for
that's it.
toothpaste. It's not that painful a problem. No one's complaining, oh my God, like I wish the toothpaste had better flavors. And what was the last one?
So
dream outcome. It's
dream
not,
outcome.
It's not a massive transformation.
It's not delivering some amazing outcome.
But still, I mean, it's an idea. Cool. So we're coming up with 10 ideas and we're ranking them in terms of payment, pain, and price.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. So we're coming up with, so first we rank those. We're going to focus on the first couple of like 2 or 3, and we're just going to do fast, cheap experiments. So 30 test, 150 test. And then we're going to go with, given that we came up with all 10 of these, we're probably going to then apply a filter. Like if there's a tiebreaker, is there one you're more passionate about? Is there one that you have a better story for? Do you have a better background associated? So we're trying to find founder opportunity fit. Yep. And this is really at this early stage of the journey here. So founder opportunity fit, we're coming up with 10 ideas. We're picking the best one. We're conducting some opportunity related testing and then founder related testing. So founder is your passion, your backstory, your origin, mission, vision. Your opportunity testing is 30 test, 150 test, fast, cheap experiments. How does this score on pain prize payment? So that's our founder opportunity fit stage.
All right, before we go any further, let's just confirm exactly what Dan means by origin, mission, and vision in the context of coming up with ideas that have a good founder opportunity fit.
My origin story is, what is my background? What successful case studies have I already got? When did I do something special that other people noticed? When did I transform somebody's life? When did I do something that people said, oh, I wish you'd do that more often? When did I do something that people said, that's really valuable, thank you for helping me? When did I do something that people said, oh, that was too cheap, I would have paid twice as much for that? So that's called your origin story. Your vision is, what do you really find yourself thinking about in the future? What do you want to see happen in the world? Not necessarily what rewards do you want. It's not about like your vision to have a Ferrari, but it's like your vision for the future. What do you hope happens in the world that you feel like you would work hard towards? Your mission is, what is the highest value activity that you could possibly do throughout a month? So for example, I've seen people who work in dentistry, let's say, and most of the month is like drilling teeth and all that sort of stuff. But occasionally throughout the month, they do a special consultation where they talk to someone about like, you know, what's possible with veneers and different things. And that person then signs up to a $12,000 package and like, yep, $12,000 package. I want to do that. And actually, the most valuable thing they did through the month was the 15-minute conversation that resulted in $12,000 upsell. So it's like, okay, can we leverage that, right? So that's like understanding mission moments. Mission means the moments of highest value. So for me personally, going on your podcast is a mission moment, because in this moment, I can create value at scale. If I was sitting at home by myself journaling, much less of being on mission. So origin, mission, vision, exploration is a really good one.
Interesting. Question. So in the process of idea generation, should we be thinking about like the vehicle? So like, I'm going to sell a course for X, or should we focus it on I'm going to help people get X? Like that kind of thing.
A really good idea is this concept called cloning, which is to understand what businesses are already successful that are very close, that are like adjacent to what you're trying to do. Like it's really, really powerful to look around the market you want to enter and say, like, what are the examples that are the closest examples to the lifestyle business I would want? Yeah. It's often the case that in any market, there's 3, 4, 5 different competitors, and you only have to be slightly better than the other competitors to be massively out ahead. So I'll give you an example. In my local area, there are a number of veterinary clinics, and there's like one that just stands out, and there's a few things that they do really well, which is built into the floor. They have a set of scales so that when you bring your pet in, it's super easy to stand on the scales, weigh the pet, and like that's just like effortlessly done. It's also really clean. They have little treats available for the pet straight away when you arrive. There's tiny little things that they're doing that just make them that slightly bit better as a veterinary practice, and that's why everyone kind of goes there, and we pay subscriptions to them. They've figured out how to get our subscription revenue. Everything's included for a subscription. Yeah. So like it's not like they reinvented a veterinary clinic. They just figured out, okay, we can also be a veterinary clinic in here, but we've just figured out 3 things that make us a little bit better. Yeah. So we don't have to be revolutionary. We can actually just be evolutionary, and it's really smart to go and look at like you might say, oh, I'm going to do this in this particular industry. Is there anything close that is like, you know, worth cloning? Like if you had to pick some clonable businesses, what would you clone to try and figure out what's close? In school, it's really bad to copy. In business, we copy all the time.
It might surprise people to hear what you just said, because people might think that if there are competitors, that means I should not pursue this business idea.
To a degree, that is true if you don't intend to find something that you can be better about. Now, better is very subjective. I'll tell you one thing that always blows my mind when it comes to business training. Entrepreneurs don't want to learn typically from billionaires. It's really strange. But what I've discovered is that a classic mistake that is being made in the entrepreneur training space is that there's a bunch of Silicon Valley companies that go out and find a bunch of billionaires to be the faculty, and then the business flops and fails. And this has happened like a dozen times. And what I've noticed on the sidelines is that entrepreneurs who are starting out are not so interested in learning from Richard Branson and Reid Hoffman and all the usual suspects. Yeah. They actually really like learning from people who have a 7-figure or an 8-figure business who are just a few steps ahead. Yep. And then they're interested in learning from the billionaires, but only once they get to that next level up. So something that's interesting is that you can make a business more relatable. So you might say, aha, what I've discovered is that my advantage is that I'm actually much more closely aligned. So let's take the health and fitness space. It might be the case that people don't even want to learn health and fitness from someone who's ripped and has always been ripped and has been an athlete and who's 6'2" and who's like shredded. They might actually like to, there's a market of people who might say, oh, I'm 45 and I want to learn from a guy who's 45 with kids who was overweight and lost weight and has been able to keep it off. He's not shredded, right? But he's actually been able to, like, he's more relatable. So there's these other factors that, like, if you're competing with Joe Wicks, you may just simply be more relatable than Joe Wicks, right? If that makes sense.
So you can compete on relatability. You can compete on price.
You can compete on price. Not a great one. Yeah. It's not great. Price, ideally price is something you want to try and establish price points. You kind of want to, be in the higher band because that's where profitability happens. As soon as you lower price, you have to massively go through volumes. It used to be that small businesses could be more cheaply run, but actually in the current economy, bigger businesses, can have 10-person teams as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that a massive business has thousands of employees, that are dead weight. it actually can be that you ideally want to be competing on something other than price.
Nice. So we got price, relatability. What other factors can we be thinking of when it comes to sort of looking at business? How can we be better?
So connectivity. So for example, if you're competing with someone who's famous, but they're so famous that there's no way someone gets a chance to actually have any one-on-one time with them whatsoever. So that's called competing on experience. So there's the experience of having some one-to-one time with that person. It may not scale, but for a lifestyle business, it may not need to scale. Like for example, I could learn fitness from Joe Wicks, but I can't learn fitness one-on-one from Joe Wicks. Whereas my local PT, I could have some one-to-one time and also some of the other digital tools as well. Yeah.
Step 4, the 2-person team. Okay, so now we're moving into this $10,000 a month phase. And the next step in Dan's framework is all about building a 2-person scout team to get the business off the ground.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to try and find a collaborator. So this could be a co-founder, it could be an assistant, a sales assistant, it could be a head of customer success. We want a +1.
Yeah. How important is that? Because in your experience?
It's everything. It's the ability, there's so much value in just nattering. So if you and I were co-founding a business, let's say the two of us, independently we're off doing our own thing and we're working on it on our own. Yeah. There's just this feeling of loneliness and struggle and all this. If you and I got together and started a business and every Monday morning we're having a nattering session about
it's more fun.
It's more fun, but your idea is going to get compounded with my idea. I'm going to come up with something. We're going to lock horns on a few things. As a result of locking horns, we'll actually get to a better outcome. So, and also we can just delegate. So I can say, I'm going to go make 30 sales calls. Can you go and see if you figure out that customer success issue that's going on? And at the end of the day, we both regroup and now 2 major problems have been solved, right? As opposed to on day 1, I have to make 30 phone calls. Then I have to stop doing that and go do a customer success type deep dive. And it's just But
Dan, I don't want to give away equity.
Yeah, well, for starters, you're not giving away equity. You're paying for a service with equity. So your equity is not worth a lot at the early stages, but you're paying for a particular service, and the service you're paying for is a faster growing business that's worth more. So if I said to you, you can either have 100% of a tent that is on the side of a highway, or you can have 50% of a beautiful house that's in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah,
right?
I'll take the house.
Far better to have 50% of a house.
Yeah.
So it's just you can have 100% of your tent if you want your tent. It's not worth anything to anybody, but it's yours. Or you can actually build something of value. So what you're paying for is you're paying for speed, value, and you're paying for that with equity. Now, the other thing too, the way equity often works is that it's not you own everything and then you're giving away half. It's that you own something, they own something, and you're mashing those things together. So let's think about it in a different way. Let's say you and I were neighbors. You've got a house worth $1 million, I've got a house worth $1 million, and together we're neighbors. Now, if we got together and said, hey, if we combined our blocks of land, we would have a development site. We could put a 10-story building on this development site, but we have to work together. Why don't we have 50% of a development site together? Now, in that example, did you give me anything?
No, I've contributed my
You've
million.
contributed your million.
Yours. It seems perfectly
fair.
Yeah.
So on day 1, I have $1 million, you have $1 million house. On day 2, I have 50% of a 2 million block of land that is 2 houses. Then we get zoning permission and we have a development site that's now worth 4 million. I have 50% of a 4 million development site. Then we put up the development and it's worth 12 million. And we pay off our debt now, all of that sort of stuff. And now I have 50% of something that's worth 10 million. So now I have gone from having something that was worth 1 million to something that was worth 5 million. But I only could do that because I partnered with you.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, did I give anything away? No. I just simply contributed my piece. You contributed your piece. So at no point did anyone lose anything. So when we think about having 50% equity and 50% equity, it's no, we're actually contributing something each.
Yeah, I guess someone might object to that, saying that well, if I start my business and I manage to do it myself, I could then, once it's sort of making some money, could hire someone and just pay them a salary.
Totally
rather
could.
Than
Yeah, and if you can do that, great. When I say a collaborator, you could have an executive assistant, you could have a customer success agent, you could have a salesperson. And if you can get that person to contribute without sharing equity through some other means, like paying them, happy days.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So what you're doing is you as an entrepreneur, you've got multiple forms of currency. One form of currency is your equity. Another form of currency is cash. So you can just choose, do I want to pay for this service with my equity, or do I want to pay for this service with my cash?
Yeah. And I guess there's a third currency, which is your own time, which is that, like, yeah, if you really wanted to, you could sort of work overtime and try and do the sales calls yourselves and this, that, and the other. But like either way, you're paying,
for it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay.
And also, it doesn't have to be 50-50. So for example, if you're a doctor and it's a medical related business and you want someone to be a salesperson, now you can't afford their sales commissions, you might say, hey, look, I'm going to let you earn into 5%, or I'm going to let you earn into 7%, because those first couple of $100,000 worth of sales commissions, we're actually going to credit those against equity. Now, you're not giving up 50%, you're letting someone earn into, a smaller percentage.
Nice. Step 5, minimum viable product versus core offering. All right, so what happens next?
So we've got our 2-person scout team. I call this a scout team because they're still scouting the opportunity. And we're bouncing between having what we call an MVP, a minimum viable product, which is just testing, towards actually having a core offering, which is something to sell.
Okay, so your minimum viable product could actually just be a landing page where people can give you their email address or their phone number to join a waiting list. So this basically means that you don't have to create anything before you start collecting leads or signals of interest that people actually want your thing. So for example, if you're writing a book, you can say, hey, I'm writing a book, sign up here and you'll be one of the first to hear about it when it's published. And this will give you a sense of like, if someone's not going to give you their email address for a free thing to be on a wait list, they're probably not going to want to buy your book. And so it's a good way of validating the idea. But your minimum viable product doesn't have to just be like a landing page. It could also be a dinner party or an online event or an in-person event or a free trial to something. Like, we offered trial versions of VoicePal and Momentum, which are 2 of our apps, when we launched the apps. And those were sort of like the minimum viable product version of those as a way of validating demand. That like, is there actually a market for the thing? And also getting some people into the door to be the first to test it out. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in checking out the apps that my wife and I are co-founding, we've got VoicePal, which is an AI writing app, and we've got Momentum, which is an app to help you stay consistent with energizing habits. Both of them are linked in the video description. So now we move on to step 6, which is one-to-one sales.
Remember that a business comes into existence when you have a customer, not when you have something to sell. So we're very focused on customer acquisition.
One-on-one sales.
One-on-one sales.
What if I'm selling like a £10 thing?
Yeah, one-on-one sales.
Oh, okay. Like going out. I guess with my BMAT course back in the day, I'm like messaging my brother's friends on Facebook that I know are applying to medicine, be like, hey, Joshel, I'm holding a course for the UCAT next weekend. Do you want to join me?
Yeah, you could do DMs, you could do texting, but it's still, you were texting people one-to-one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still one-on-one sales.
Yeah.
So it's one-to-one communication, sending out DMs. Now, what you could do is you could add to this with daily social posting as a way of getting people who are interested to have one-on-one sales.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so you could actually find people who are interested through the algorithm, but ultimately reaching out to people, one-on-one sales, whatever it is. Now, if you're selling something that's $10, you know that one-on-one sales is not going to pay the bills, but what you're really acknowledging here is that you're still in the learning phase. So the more that you can have one-to-one interactions, because customers will tell you stuff. They'll say, oh, I really love that, but it's blue. Well, why is that a problem? Well, I always want it to be red. Okay, well, then we'll make it in red, like whatever. Or, oh, it's a 6-month training program. I can only do 5 months. Can I do it if it was a 5-month? Okay, yeah, it's a 5-month program.
Yeah.
So you're talking and interacting with customers because a few of them are going to say stuff and you'll start picking up on, oh, wait a sec, everyone wants it in red in 5 months, not 6 months in blue. So it's like, okay, cool, I'll make those changes.
People are really scared of the idea of one-on-one sales, especially the word sales. Any thoughts on this?
I get over it.
Yeah.
It is just a big part of business that you need to communicate your value with others. It's so funny. The higher up you get in any job, you're in a sales role. CEO of a public listed company is in a sales role. You're just selling investors and you're selling people all the time. If you end up as a senior role in HR, you're selling people to come and join the company. You're out there, sell, come and join the team. If you end up in a senior marketing role, you'll sell all the time. Like any role, like if you're the president of the United States of America, you're selling ideas all the time. You're just selling, pitching, sell, sell, sell. I spoke to the Major General of the Royal Marines, and we talked about how everything turns into a sales role. And he said, being the Major General of the Royal Marines is just sales all the time. So regardless of what you do, you're in sales.
Being partner at a law firm, being partner at a consulting firm,
you're in sales
role.
Yep. Being a doctor, like in a sense, you know, one of the biggest issues that doctors have is compliance, like people sticking to the treatment plan. So how much of your role is just selling them on the idea that they must stick with this treatment plan?
Yeah. And the doctors that make money are doing private practice, which is entirely a sales problem.
In sales. Unbelievably, the GP appointment is a sales call. Like what seems to be the problem, right? Oh, this is the problem. What symptoms have you experienced? What do you think might be causing this? Right? Symptoms, causes. Okay, are you ready for me to prescribe a treatment plan, right? Which is my solution that you're going to buy, right? With either time or energy or money. Yeah. But essentially those same things of what are your problems? What are the underlying insights as to why those problems exist? Yeah. Okay, here's a treatment plan. Here's what we're going to do about it. That is a very much a consultative sales process.
Nice. Okay, 2 questions. Firstly, but Dan, I don't want to be a salesperson. I want to do the work. I don't want to sell the work.
Yeah, so with entrepreneurship, you elevate up out of the work. But the truth is, as an entrepreneur, you'll probably not also do the work either. Entrepreneurs tend to end up being conductors in the orchestra, and we don't play any of the instruments. We conduct the orchestra. It's very, very much the case that you will elevate out of all of this, and you won't be in any of the roles. But we start out doing all the roles. We start out figuring stuff out. So we figure out how to get a customer, and then we figure out how to deliver a customer. And in the early days, we're very hands-on with all of that.
How does one do a sales call?
Yeah, so when you're talking to a customer, it follows a pattern. What's your current situation? What are you trying to achieve? What's your biggest obstacle? What's in the way? Right? Those are the 3 things that you're always trying to find out. So where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's in the way?
Wait, so I'm not just telling them to buy my thing. I'm being facetious here, but I feel like people have an idea of sales being like, God, I've just got to tell them to buy, like sell me this pen, and all that shit.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, I've never sold that way. So where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's in the way? So just asking those questions typically. And it often is, actually, in fairness, is often preceded with, like, before that, it often is, hey, look, this is what I'm up to, this is what I'm doing. So directionally, this is what I'm talking to you about. Of course, that's in there. And it's a good idea because and all that sort of stuff. So in the appointment setting phase, you might say, I'm working on a business where we're launching software that helps video editors, and we've already got Ali Abdaal's team signed up and blah, blah, blah. Can I tell you a bit about what it is that we're up to, we're doing. So then you would do a little mini presentation. So we're doing software and it's all of that. Would it be okay if I ask you a few questions just so I can kind of marry up the features and all of that sort of stuff? So where are you now? Where are you trying to get to relating to this thing? Yeah. What's your biggest obstacle? And then if you think it's appropriate, you always ask permission, can I share with you some insights and some potential solutions that we would offer? Right. So insights, I'm going to share with them, what have I learned about their situation? What is my take on their situation? So I just talk broadly, and then I'd say, here's what I would do, and here's what we can offer you to do that. So insights, methods, solutions. So I'm going to basically say, it looks like you're doing this, and this, but you're not using some software, and it's going to take you a long time to do this. As you scale up, that's going to become even more of a problem. And putting in some software now is going to alleviate that now, but it's also going to allow you to scale. So this is the insights. And then solution is, so we've got this solution. It's all packaged up for $49 a month. It includes this, and this. It really connects with what you were saying about here, and the obstacle that you currently face is this is how it does it. And then say, how does that sound? And they go, sounds pretty good. I say, great. So what we like to do normally is to do a 3-month trial period so that you can see that it is actually working for you. And if it's not working in those 3 months, then we just leave it there. And if it goes at the end of 3 months, we do a review, and then we go forward and we leave it in place. Sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty legit.
That's a sales call.
Okay.
Right?
That seems a lot less scary then. Yeah.
Just a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like anything feels scary if you've never done it before. Like at one point, driving a car was terrifying. At one point, getting on a bicycle was terrifying. At one point, standing on a stage and talking is terrifying. If you're a doctor, at one point, seeing blood was probably terrifying. So like all of this stuff is terrifying. Do you know what I've learned is 30 samples also gives you confidence. So when you do something 30 times, you level up in confidence. 30 sales calls, at the end of 30 sales calls, you feel very differently about sales than at the start of 30 calls. And then 150 gets you to the next level of confidence, right? It's funny that these are called confidence intervals. And it's the first confidence interval is 30, and then the second confidence interval is 150.
Nice. I like that.
So don't expect to have confidence without reaching a confidence interval. So 30 or 150.
Okay, nice. That's really cool. We've got a bunch of students in our sort of 1K challenge, which make your first $1,000 online, who are like, I've made a pre-order page for this thing, and like no one's buying it. And I'm like, okay, how many people have you told about it? Like 3. Like, okay, cool. Let's just speak to more people about it. That kind of thing.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, a lot of people do not realize just how hard it is how many people you need to talk to. It's often the case that 50 leads creates one sale. Like that's for a thing that's a few thousand, it's 50 to 1 these days. Especially in the online environment. If you were the old days of offline, it was 10 to 1. So you talk to 10 and get 1. In the online environment, it's 50 to 1.
Yeah. One thing that was interesting as well is we were doing like this live Zoom event thing, and people were asking like, no one's buying my thing. I was like, okay, just have a guess. Like, we sell our part-time YouTuber Academy course for $1,000. Have a guess at what you think the conversion rate on that sales page is. Like, let's say of 100 people that hit that sales page, how many of them will buy? And we had a wide, like some people were like 50%, 70%, 90%. I was like, holy shit, with 90%, I'd be a billionaire by now, if that were the case. Our conversion rate on that sales page is 0.5%.
I was going to say, it wouldn't even be 1%.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like Ali Abdaal is this big ass YouTuber with 6 million subscribers running this thing for 5 years, so many testimonials, and it's 0.5% on that sales page. And then people were like, okay.
Yeah, like 1 in 200.
1 in 200 buys the product,
Yeah, so it's like, 199 out of 200 hate you. Yeah, that's how they feel. Like people when they're entrepreneurs, it's like, but people who aren't buying, that's a real problem. No. Even when they love you, 1 in 100, like 1 in 200 buy. I have similar stuff. Like like people would be shocked to discover that it's about 1 in 50 to 1 in 80 who buy our thing, and that's for a qualified lead who might attend a workshop or something like that. So like. It's just in the online environment where it's very easy to interact. The numbers plummet through the floor. Yeah, you can build a multi-million-pound business off 1 in 200.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because I guess if the thing you're selling is between 1,000 and 10,000 or 2 and 20, you actually don't need that many sales in order to have a solid 6-figure lifestyle business.
So I got ScoreApp off the ground, just sending 3,000 DMs a month, so 100 a day. And all we were doing is just messaging people, and I would message them my little case study. I'd say, a few years ago, I launched an online quiz. Here's how it performed. Here's some of our stats. If you're interested in launching an online quiz, we've just launched a new piece of software. Let me know if that's of interest, and I'll send you through the link for the free trial.
Sounds pretty chill.
Yeah.
And you're just sending these DMs
and
people on
come
like
back,
your Facebook list or
people who are in groups in Facebook that are already in a group about marketing, people who have hashtags on Instagram that are related to the product or service. So I would just do some searching. In 2021, this thing called Clubhouse took off, right? It was just a new social media. And it just so happens it coincided with the time that I was getting ScoreApp off the ground. And every single day, I would host a little social media hangout room called Sales and Marketing for Entrepreneurs.
Nice.
And I would just get some guests in there, and we'd have 30 or 40 people in that room at any given time, but about 130 would cycle through across the course of an hour. And every few minutes, I would just say, this room's brought to you by ScoreApp. We are a piece of marketing software for lead generation, doing online quizzes and assessments. Now let's get back to the conversation. So I kind of do it every 5 minutes, just a little nudge. And I'd say, if you're interested in the special link for a special offer, DM me and I'll reply with that. So some of my DMs came through that hangout. which I did every single day, 7 days a week. And then I also did 7 days a week DMing 100 random people. And that got me my first clients. And, that business is now worth 50 to 100 million. So, but I started with just random DMs.
Yeah. Someone might be listening to that and register surprise. They're like, oh, shit. Hey, that's quite a lot of DMs to send. And B, man, I thought this lifestyle business thing was supposed to be easy. And you're saying like every day you're like literally cold to DMing 100 people. You, Daniel Priestley, with all your fame and fortune and all that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, weird, huh? And like even at that time, like, I was already a millionaire and already that, but that's how you start a business. So I just go through the same steps.
Step 7, find an associate key person of influence. All right, so at this point, you've got your 2-man team that's bouncing between an MVP and a core offering and doing lots and lots of one-to-one sales, which should get you to about 10K a month or about 100K a year, fairly easily if you just do this. Now, the next stage of business is where you start to become even more profitable. And step 7 is all about building your 4-person team, but there's one person in particular who's super important here, at least according to Dan's framework.
So I'll tell you who's on the 4-person team. Probably the most important role is what we would call the associate key person of influence. So the associate key person of influence is someone who lends their name to the project, and it's their name and reputation, but they don't put a lot of time and energy in. And that person opens doors, right? So for example, you've got a brand, you've got a name, reputation. If I was launching something that was YouTuber related or productivity related, if I could just simply agree that you would in some way put your name or reputation to this, I would open 1,000 times more doors in right half the speed. So I call this the associate key person of influence. And then we've got someone who's involved in sales or customer acquisition, someone who's involved in customer success, and someone who's involved in just general management, right? So essentially, general manager in sales is like the entrepreneur does a little bit of all of these three, but it's good to have some people around you. So if your strength is sales, you're going to have someone who is your executive assistant with general management and someone who's the head of customer success. If you're head of really good at looking after customers, you're going to need a salesperson and a general manager. If you're a general manager type person, you're probably going to need a salesperson and a customer success person. So as the entrepreneur, you're going to kind of pick a lane and then get 2 people to help you. But very importantly, you get an associate key person of influence.
This is exactly the setup we have for our various apps that we're working on. Like me, plus or minus my wife, are the associate key persons of influence, where we're lending our brand and credibility to the thing. Our co-founder, Pablo, is like the entrepreneur who's actually running the business. Yep. And he's got a full-time developer for each of the apps.
Okay,
I guess
customer success.
And we're in the process of looking for someone on growth because Pablo's been doing growth. And so we're trying to, we have someone on the team who's doing growth across all the apps. Yep. But now we're looking for specific sales roles, I guess, for each individual product.
Amazing. There you go.
Basically this 4-person squad.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
So that's your 4-person squad. A lot of people don't do the associate key person of influence, and therefore they never get off the ground. So like every business that I've gone really rapid 0 to 1 million, we've always had associate key person of influence. There's someone whose name, reputation that we're leveraging. That's not me. That's not my team. Yeah. It's someone who is loosely associated to the business.
So if you happen to know that person, then great. But what if someone's listening to this and they're like, man, I don't know any fancy
people? In most
people.
cases, I've reached out to fancy people. So my first business, I was 21, 22 years old. I reached out to a guy who I saw him featured in the newspaper. Reached out, found out, got in touch, said, I'm launching a new business. Relates to what you were talking about in the newspaper. I would like to give you 5% of our revenue. And we'd like to book 10 speaking engagements where we pay you $1,500 per speaking engagement.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And he ended up making 130 grand that year for a combination of speaking 10 times and being associated with the business, getting 5% of every sale. Right. And didn't have to do much other than turn up for the speaking. Which was
good for you because you get his name and credibility. Good for him because he gets free money. So
everything was the whole business worked because of his name and credibility. So like that's how business works.
What about in like a sort of, let's say, I don't know, you're a veterinary clinic or something, like or like an accounting firm?
Most accounting firms work because there's a senior partner who is the name and credibility. If you look at like a KPMG, the partner gets paid about $600,000, $700,000 a year, and they do a lot of swanning around, managing their networks and all that sort of stuff. And then, this is a much bigger business, but essentially you've got an associate key person of influence. If I was launching a veterinary business, I would find someone who is somewhat famous with vets, with animals and whatnot, and see if I can get them associated. Now, mind you, an associate key person of influence could be paid to turn up to the launch event, could be paid to be featured on the launch campaign. Yeah. Maybe it's just simply I find someone who's happy to, collect a $2,000 or $3,000 day rate to be part of the launch day, and film some stuff, and that goes on our social medias. But just something associated with the person who's the trusted, credible person in the industry.
Okay, that's very interesting.
And it also doesn't need to be someone who has millions of followers. Normally that person is a bit out of reach. But it could be someone who's got 20,000 followers or 50,000 followers, or they've got one heck of a great story.
Oh, and by the way, if you are enjoying this video so far, you might like to check out something that my team and I are cooking up called the Lifestyle Business Academy, which is a mentorship program where the whole idea is that we work with you directly for 12 months to get you from being a complete beginner to having your own 6-figure lifestyle business in under 12 months, guaranteed. Yes, it's literally guaranteed. There'll be more details in the video description if you want to find out more, but it's our Lifestyle Business Academy, where our goal is to basically build the world's best online school for lifestyle business entrepreneurs. So if that sounds like your thing, there's a link in the video description. All right, step 8, your product for prospects. All right, so step 8 is where you build a product for prospect, a P4P in Dan's terminology, which then leads into your core product. And now this difference is really important because businesses that promote their product for prospects over their core product are generally way more successful. But what actually is a product for prospects?
So product for prospects is essentially a pre-product that leads into the core product, and that allows you to sell one to many. So a pre-product could be a webinar. A pre-product could be a online assessment or scorecard. A pre-product could be a sample kit, a sample pack. A pre-product could be a trial period. But essentially, the product for prospects is where you're selling a low commitment, easy first step that then leads into the core product. And it means that you can aggregate your efforts where you can get 10 or 100 people on a webinar and then make your sales. Yeah. Or you can get 10 or 100 people taking a free sample and then make your sales. So product for prospects into core offering, and you're just going to repeat that over and over and over again. Now, you're also doing this with a 4-person team now.
Now, how this basically works is that your product for prospects or your lead magnet leads people into a one-to-one sales meeting where you then talk about your core product. And generally, the reason why you don't want to promote the core product first is because it's a much bigger commitment for your client or your customer. We do this with our part-time YouTuber Academy, for example. We have our $1,000 academy thing, which is our core product within that particular value ladder. But we very rarely say, hey, buy the course for $1,000. We generally promote a product for prospect or our free lead magnet, which is our 7-day YouTube crash course email sequence. And so someone enters their email, we send them 7 days worth of emails that are really, really valuable about how to grow a YouTube channel. And in the final couple of emails, we start mentioning that, hey, by the way, we've got this bigger thing. If you enjoyed these free emails, then you're going to absolutely love the hundreds of videos we've got in this course and this thing over here that includes a community. And so in a way, it's a lot easier for us to get loads of people in to our product for prospects, which is our free thing, rather than just buy like the course. Let's now move on to step 9, which is your perfect repeatable week. And the idea here is that you plan what you're going to do every day throughout the week in a super systematic way to ensure you're consistently making at least $50,000 a month. I know if you're watching this right now, $50,000 a month seems absurd because how the hell can you make? But genuinely, I've been doing this online business thing for 18 years of my life now, and actually successfully for the last 13 years. And seeing Dan's framework come together has just sort of slotted so many things into my mind where I'm like, oh yeah, this actually does work. And I know maybe, if you're where I was a few years ago, where you might have a job, I had a job that was paying me 40 grand a year. And I was like, shit, I couldn't even imagine anything more than 100 grand a year. And then, we're throwing out figures like 50,000 a month and 600K a year and stuff. And it just seems completely unfathomable. But trust me, as you get going on the path, to quote the poet Rumi, as you walk the path will appear. So as you start going through the framework and doing the thing, suddenly 600K a year doesn't seem that bad. 50K a month, it's that's kind of mid. You start to get this firmware update as your skills and your mindset evolves as you do the stuff. So anyway, all that said, let's now talk about the perfect repeatable week, which includes things like team meetings, sales calls, getting customer feedback. But one of the most important things here is actually marketing, i.e. telling people about your stuff. Okay, so at this point, sort of in this first 10K or even going up to 50K a month, how important is it to do like social media content and like personal brand building and all of that stuff?
It's not wildly important. It's mostly important to do sales activity. So in this perfect repeatable week, what we're looking for is repeatable steps that we can do every single week. So for example, posting every day on social media, yeah, we could do that. And that's probably going to generate some leads. Running a few ads, we could actually have a little ads budget that we're running every single week. Sending 100 DMs could be part of our perfect repeatable week. So essentially what we're trying to do is work backwards from what activity gets us to 50,000 a month. So let's say we're selling something that's 5K and we need to sell 10 of them. So roughly speaking, we need to sell 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah.
So the question is okay, if 2 or 3 a week, let's call it 3 a week. And we say what percentage, okay, so 1 in 200 buy. So we need 600 leads a week. So we say, okay, our job in the perfect repeatable week is to somehow identify 600 potentials and message them and then get our 3 sales. Right? So what we're trying to do is orchestrate our sales targets. Everything really just comes back to that. Like we're just working backwards from sales targets.
Interesting.
Now we could do that potentially. Now, mind you, if we said 3 sales of $5,000 per week, we've got $15,000 worth of weekly revenue at that point. So we could say allowable cost per lead is, let's say it's $10 per lead is totally fine. Or actually, no, sorry, we need 600 leads. We could say allowable cost per lead is $5.
Sure.
So we can spend $3,000. So long as we're getting $5 leads, we could spend $3,000 on ads to get our 600 leads, right? So, or that could be part of the mix.
Yeah.
Some of it could be social posting, right? So we're now doing that. So we go, okay, combination of ads, combination of social posting, right? Combination of, people who are attracted to the associate key person of influence. So, we're now getting the thing started. You've also got to have a picture in your mind of like, a ginormous concrete flywheel, very slow to get it going. Once it starts to spin, it spins faster and faster and faster, and you only need to tap it to keep it spinning. Businesses are the same. Very arduous to get going. Once you've got it going, you can just keep it going, tap it, tap it, tap it. So this is the getting it spinning phase. Right, so it's the hard phase. I said earlier, it's a rough road that ends smooth. It's not a smooth road, that ends rough like a corporate career.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because this, in some ways, makes it seem very straightforward. That like, oh, you're literally just working back from the numbers and reverse engineering it. But in some ways, it also feels like quite a lot of work to try and get like 600 people every single week, of which only 3 are going to buy. Oh my God, like this is not the passive income dream that I was hoping for. Kind of thing.
It's not at the beginning. Absolutely not. Have you ever watched the movie The Shawshank Redemption?
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the most famous and loved movies of all time, and people love this movie. The reason that I think people love it without knowing why they love it, because he very, very, very slowly tunnels out of prison. Now, if you think about that just as a metaphor, how do people get out of the prison that we find ourselves in? We're all born into a prison of some sort. Very rarely some people are not born into a prison. But most of us can relate to the idea that we're born into a scenario where there's not a lot of freedom, not a lot of being able to do all the things you'd like to be able to do. And unfortunately, the way you get out is tunneling out very slowly. Like it's very rare that people can just jump the fence. So how do you get out of living in a society with massive amounts of constraints? You figure out how to tunnel out slowly. The truth is that he didn't get out of the prison with one giant thing. He also didn't get out there in a nice, happy, like friendly little way. He had to tunnel through cement. So unfortunately, on the other side of the prison wall is all the things that you want, but you kind of have to tunnel through some cement. So, and mind you, this tunneling through cement, once again, this is not dodging bullets. We're not digging ditches. We're actually just sending DMs. We're doing the type of things that teenagers do in their bedroom, right? Like it's not that hard.
Oh man, nice. What in your experience, what would you say is a realistic timeline for, let's say someone is in their 30s, corporate professional, they don't have too much free time on their hands, but they've got some evenings and weekends. How long would it take them to build, to tunnel out of the prison of the 9 to 5 and build this thing that could, get to 10K a month, 50K a month, that kind of thing?
it's hard because every business I've done, I got to $1 million in the first 12 months. Like, I'm really good at kicking the door down. So I genuinely believe you can do this really a lot faster than people think in terms of you can run launch campaigns. Like in the first, bear in mind, at this phase, we've already done product market fit and testing and all that sort of stuff. But look, if we said that phase is 90 days, for the first 3 months, you're going to do core offering, product market fit, MVP. The reason it's 90 days is because you did an apprenticeship and you built your confidence. You also did some side hustles and you built your confidence. So now that's only 90 days, right? And then this is a launch campaign. So you're actually like launching properly with a team of 3 other people and an associate key person of influence. So you launch in 90 days and then you get into perfect repeatable week for the rest of the year. You should be able to build up to 20 grand a week worth of sales. Once you're at 20 grand a week, you're at $1 million a year run rate. So like, it's not like, I don't know. Like for me personally, those are the kind of timeframes I'm looking at.
Step 10, close the value creation loop. Okay, so the final stage in this framework is when you hit 7 figures in revenue, so $1 million in revenue, but we're not going to get into the weeds here because it starts to get pretty complicated, and I suspect if you're watching this video, you are not yet at $1 million in revenue, and maybe you'd like to get there someday. Plus, if you want a lifestyle business that gives you fun, fulfillment, flexibility, and financial freedom, you don't really need to hit 7 figures in revenue. Most of us are going to be totally cool with like 6 figures in revenue. Like, if you had a business that was making, 500K revenue and maybe like 300K profit, that's a pretty good gig, right? Like, you can work on your own terms. You've got financial freedom, time freedom, creative freedom. You don't need to be hitting 7 figures in revenue, but if you want to, then there's obviously the option to scale. Anyway, the final thing we're going to talk about is the value creation loop. So we mentioned these a little bit earlier in the video, but we didn't actually look at what they are in a lot of detail. But now that we understand a lot of this new terminology and the different phases of building a business, we can take a look at what a value creation loop really is about and how we can close this loop.
So entrepreneurship is a big value creation loop. So it starts with founder opportunity fit. So that is you finding an opportunity that's good for you. It goes to MVP, minimum viable product. So that's doing the testing we talked about. It then goes to what we call product market fit. So this is you've figured out a product. Now you're figuring out how to sell it into a marketplace. So I now know what I'm selling and I now know who I sell it to. Then there's go to market, which is where you actually get out and sell it and do perfect repeatable weeks and you are out there making sales. Then there's scaling up, which is where you sell to more people, you run ads, you hire more people, so you throw the kitchen sink at it at this point. You've really figured stuff out. This is where money, like go to market and scale up. This is where you start actually making profitability, and this is where you make profit at scale. So, go to market and scale up. And then once you scale up, you can exit, which is where you can either sell the company for a life-changing amount of money, or you can exit with your time. You're no longer required to be there all the time. You've got a team and all that sort of stuff. And then you celebrate and rest, and then you go again. So that's called a value creation loop.
Okay.
And then the associated groups of people that are associated with this is typically soul searching. So that's one. MVP to product market fit is where you're like 2 people scout team. This is where you're about a 4-person team with an associate key person of influence included. Your go-to-market team is probably going to be about 8. Your scale-up team is where you're at about 30 people, and you tend to be at about 30 people plus when you exit. So it's like 2, 4, 8, 30. So once you've got an idea of what is good for you, you jump from 2-person, 4-person, 8-person, 30-person team.
Yep.
So MVP, product market fit, go to market, scale up, exit, and then you go again. And especially too, if you get somewhere close to a 30-person team and you exit, it's probably going to be somewhere between 2 and 10 million that you end up with.
Yep.
So you can actually take quite a lot of time to celebrate and rest before going again.
And sort of, if you wanted a lifestyle business rather than a scale up and exit, then presumably you'd stop at the 8-person mark.
You're somewhere around here. This go-to-market, this is where you would have a perfect repeatable week. You would have a team of 8 people who are really doing a good job. You would have positioned yourself as the key person of influence, not having an associate key person of influence. You would now be the figurehead of your business. And you're there with an 8-person team. Everything runs smoothly. and you're semi-exited. So you're not exited, but you're semi-exited, which means you don't have to put a lot of time and energy into the business in order for it to work.
Yeah.
So you might be doing 4 or 5 meetings per month that keep the business on its rails.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's that point there.
That's pretty vibey.
That's the lifestyle biz.
And one thing that I remember you and I were talking about a lot in the early days is like, what I got from your advice was you kind of need to decide, do you want a lifestyle business or do you want a performance business?
Yeah.
Because in the middle there's like this dodgy grey area.
Well, yeah, once you enter the scale-up zone of taking your team from 8 to 30 and from like doing everything at scale, like it's a very intense period. Scale-up is very, very intense, and it's only worth it if you really go to exit. So if you sit there and go, I don't want that intensity and I don't necessarily even want to exit, I just want the fun bit, and I'm happy to not necessarily fully exit, I'll just partially exit, then the lifestyle business is the place to stop. And then you skip the scale up and exit phase.
Yeah, nice. In your experience, what are the biggest mistakes that people make along this journey?
The biggest mistake is just not knowing that all this exists. So like, for example, you obsess about the ideas phase or the exit. Like you might read about some entrepreneur who exited their company for 100 million, and then you go, wow, let's read about the story. And it's all about how they had the idea. And there's not a lot of MVPing, product market fit, go to market, scale up. So not knowing that this set of steps exists, you know, it's funny because it's like I love using medicine examples when I'm around you, because like there was a particular time where it was considered to be crazy to wash your hands between patients. And it was literally they locked a guy into a loony bin because he said that there are these microscopic things called germs, and that we need to wash our hands so that we don't transfer the germs from one person to the germs of another person. And they thought he was schizophrenic, right? And then they figured out, oh, actually, he was right, and you should wash your hands. So then they introduced that step. Now, imagine, you know, you're having to figure it all out from scratch. Imagine that you decide to turn your back on medical discipline and turn your back on established wisdom. And you say, I'm just going to figure everything out from yourself from scratch. You're back to the start of figuring out that germs even exist, which took hundreds of years to figure out, and is like the most basic thing of like, have some soap and water. That's it. It's the same with entrepreneurship. There are so many things that have already been figured out for you. And it's like, you have to treat this as a discipline. You have to learn the steps and go, oh, okay, so I've got to do that particular thing. Oh, I have to send some DMs at the start, and oh, I have to have an associate key person of influence, and I should have some software that does certain things for me. So it's like follow some best practices, and innovate around the edges.
Yeah, I really like that. I think there's, again, I speak to people who want to start businesses, and I was speaking to this girl the other day who wants to start a fashion line. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. I'm curious, like, why a fashion line? I was like, oh, because I think it would be cool. I was like, okay. And we kind of had a little bit of a conversation about it, and it emerged that she has never read any book about how to start a business. She has not listened to any podcast about how to start a business, except the Richard Branson-esque ones, where she was super inspired by the story of the billionaires. Yep. And I think she maybe read the story of like the Spanx founder or something, who's like now $1 billion valuation, and she was like super inspired. And it just transpired that she just had not. It was sort of this pipe dream of like, oh man, imagine if I had a really cool fashion brand, sustainability and stuff. And she was like 23 and had not done any of the groundwork. And it's sort of like, you know, watching, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy and being like, I want to be a neurosurgeon.
I'll be a neurosurgeon.
It's going to be so cool. And it's like,
let's get started.
Let's go. It's like, you know,
get me the can opener.
There is a path. There's a path that requires learning and reading and understanding and practicing and doing the thing, you know, sort of, you know, fairly prescribed process.
That's it. Yeah. And if something was easy, everyone would do it. And if everyone did it, it wouldn't be very valuable. So the reason that people can sell companies for millions and millions is because it's very hard to do. Now, it's not impossible to do. But one of the things that makes it hard is most people who try to do it don't do any learning at all in the entrepreneurial space. The thing that works really, really well for me as an entrepreneur is that school doesn't teach this. Hardly any business schools actually even teach this. They teach MBAs, which is how to run existing businesses. There's so few people who learn the path that it makes it very easy for me, because now I know the path. I can just have multiple businesses, make a lot of money because I'm very skilled at this. Yeah. But there is a set of skills, there's a lot of skill acquisition that goes into being able to do this. But the payoff for this set of skills is astronomical relative to other set of skills.
Yeah.
I would say it's actually deeply unfair that if I were to acquire the nursing set of skills, where I can nurse someone back from near death to health, I get paid a barely livable wage for life-saving nursing skills, right? It's deeply unfair, but that set of skills, the UK doesn't reward that set of skills very much. Other countries do a bit more, but it's just for whatever reason, that is not a valued set of skills. And then my set of skills of just being able to send some DMs and launch something and get some people engaged with it and sign up some customers and get some people signed up on contracts, recurring revenue contracts, is a ridiculously highly rewarded set of skills.
To what extent would you recommend people start on this path to try and build a lifestyle business?
I think at any other time in history, I'd be really cautious in saying that this is a good idea, because a corporate career offered so much. Entrepreneurship was pretty risky. The tables have absolutely turned right now. If you get this right, you can scale up to a global audience. You can have a global team of people. You can live and work from anywhere. You can run your business in the cloud. The alternative is that the benefits of being an employee have dropped through the floor. The livable wage is like hardly any jobs meet the conditions of a livable wage. There's almost no big payday that's coming. So the rewards have been so diminished on the typical working wage, and the upside is now massive upside on the entrepreneurial thing. I think if you've listened to all of this that we've talked through, you're probably in the category of people that should be exploring this more seriously.
Nice. Yeah. One thing that I've been noodling on recently is that I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur, but I think everyone should at least learn the skills for independent income generation. Because even if you want to stay as an employee, they're just really useful skills to have. If you ever get laid off, or the company gets acquired, or like your boss changes and now that person's a bit of a then it gives you the option, like knowing that you've previously made money in the past by sending some DMs.
Or even if rather than working for a company that has 5,000 employees, you go and work for a company that has 50 employees, but you do so on a revenue share or a equity deal where you earn into the value of the company. And even if you're still working in a job, but you're able to apply some entrepreneurial skills to get a piece of equity, it could be very much the case that a few years from now they sell the company and you get £250,000 as your little slice. Happy days. That at least is a possibility, as opposed to what was happening in the corporate career where it just wasn't even possible.
All right, so if you got to the end of this video thinking, whoa, I've just learned a bunch of new things, then you'll probably want to check out this video next, which is all about how to flip the switch from consuming stuff, consumption mode, to action mode, where you actually go out and start your first business. Because to be honest, as much as I'm appreciative that you've watched this video and given us your valuable time and attention, because learning only gets you so far. And if you have any goal related to freedom, whether that's financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, creative freedom, or all of the above, then you really want to start creating stuff. And so in this video, I will show you exactly how to do that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in this video. Bye-bye.